Hello, everybody. It is time for NaNoWriMo. I am terribly excited, so we will go ahead and get into it. You can see my word count there at the bottom. The goal is 2,500 words per day average. And of course, this being the first day, my goal is to have 2,500 total words by the end of the session. Maybe I'll push a little further just to kind of give myself a cushion of words as we go, but we'll see how it goes. So the novel I'm going to be writing for NaNoWriMo is Rise Again. It's a science fiction novel, and it's by me, Jay Wilburn, and that's pretty much all I know at this point. I've made some notes, but I may just try and get some of the words down and then sort of refer to the notes as I look at the end of the chapter and see if I left anything out, or that may be something I go back and add later. All right. This chapter is called Primal (7). And maybe that'll make sense later. Maybe nothing in this novel will make sense. All right. I thought he was human the entire time I followed him through the wilderness. All right, that is the first line. I would not have followed him at all, except that he passed within less than half a day's journey from our village. And he was so strange. Not strange in a way that gave me any clue to his true nature, but strange. Okay, not strange in a way that gave me any clue to his true nature, but strange. Let's be vague, but still very, very strange. He was less than ordinary. As I watched him with my bow at the ready, he tripped over a root in plain sight, got up and tripped over the next root on the same tree. All right, as I introduce things, I'm going to try to intersperse the action itself so that the story is moving forward, but we'll see how that goes. A lot of this will probably be edited differently on the back end, but it's just a matter of getting the words down at this point. Let me give a description of this guy. He wore a red coat as bright as fresh spilled blood, except where the material was caked with mud. Maybe from all his falls. I had only seen him a moment and he'd already fallen twice. It was a woven material, and he did not have animal skins on any part of his body. His strange shoes might have been leather, but they were as white as a cloud, though wearing out quickly like all his clothing. He had no hunting gear. There was not a weapon on him that I ever saw in the 3 days I tracked him. He got up from the ground, turned in a full circle, and trekked southwest through the trees like it was more of a guess than a choice. He was I looked upon no hunter, no warrior, and a man with no direction. If he was a scout, as I feared he might be, then he was a terrible one. He walked loud, snapped branches that could easily be avoided, tore his skin on thorns, that were easy to see, and made no effort to cover his trail for the entire 3 days. All right. I watched him weave between the trees with his head down most of the time. He did not reference the sun, nor did he align trees in his path to hold his weaving journey. He bumbled into the shadows, and I followed him with my bow at the ready. He stopped and ate some dried pods that were edible. He skipped over a cluster of mushrooms that were also good to eat. At the time, I thought he might have traveled from afar, and mushrooms could be risky if they were unknown to him. He passed over other foods that should have been obvious to him as well. Alright, so we're establishing that this guy is strange and maybe out of place, and we don't really know why at this point. He passed close to our territory from the direction of the far bay. He was not of any tribe or village close to us. Maybe he was from the coast beyond the far bay. If he was, then he was scouting far and unprepared. Or he was the last survivor of some attack or war. He could have been returning to his people in an unknown tribe farther to the southeast. This possibility, more than any other, drove me to follow him and to not kill him sooner. Alright. Moving right along. His skin was pale, except where it was burned and peeling from the sun, or where it knotted up from angry bug bites. He did not protect himself with mud or saps that could prevent this. He saved all the mud for his clothes. The man stopped at a creek and drank by leaning down. The man stopped at a creek and drank by leaning down with his face in the water and his ass up in the air. I could have killed him there and let him bleed into the water before he knew he was dead. Maybe I should have. Maybe the only reason I am still alive to tell this story is because I didn't. The first night, he continued to crash loudly through the forest for nearly 2 hours after dark. At that point, I thought he might be something other than a man totally lost. It was the first time I considered I might be getting drawn into a trap. Only bait would be that loud in the darkness. For about half an hour, a wolf tracked him off to his left across the shallow creek. I stayed downwind and watched them both, kind of hoping the wolf would solve this problem for me. The strange man stumbled into the creek 3 times in short order. Eventually, the wolf peeled off and left my strange companion alive to blunder onward. Maybe the wolf decided that this level of foolishness had to be a trap. Maybe stupid people don't taste as good. I've never seen a person so lost, not just in the woods, and not just in the dark, but lost in his own skin. He was, okay, what do I want to say here? He was so utterly unprepared for the world as it was that he might have been born fully grown right before the morning I first saw him. That may be dangerously closer to the truth than I like. Finally, he dropped to the ground as if his legs simply gave out under him. He did not start a fire. He did not prepare any shelter. I would have thought he had fallen dead except for the snoring. I drew myself very close to him that night to understand him better. He slept so soundly that I could have rated his body and looked for any artifacts that might define him and his land better. But I decided against it and took up a position at a fair distance. There was no danger of me losing him the next morning, as he slept well past sunrise. He woke slowly and moved slower. For a while, he just sat there, staring at nothing and muttering to himself. It could have been prayers meditation, or even spells, but it looked more like a fool just muttering. He found a little something to eat. He found a little something to eat, passed over more to eat, and started through the trees again, south by southwest. This day was even more baffling. He stumbled more, and just after the noon hour, he walked right over the edge of a bluff and tumbled to the bottom. It did not kill him, but it surely hurt. All right. Here we go. I took the lull in our wanderings to fish. I ate my catch raw to avoid drawing his attention with smoke. As I tell this, I'm not certain he would have even noticed. Before sunset, he got to his feet and limped onward. We continued after dark, but he stopped sooner and leaned against a tree to sleep. The third day started earlier, but he struggled to stand on a swelled knee. Now we traveled southeast, but I doubt this man had any idea. Say I doubted this man had any idea where he was going. It's not like he thought, after tumbling down a bluff and ruining my knee, turn left. The trees started to clear, and I held farther back but he still showed no indication that he knew I was around. He might have believed he had the entire world to himself, and it was all created for him. If that was his belief, he did not act as if he liked this world, and he appeared to be punishing himself in how he traveled. Maybe this was a rite of passage, but he was quite old for that, and I judged him to be failing his tests. He entered the wide clearing in the red light of the setting sun on the third day. I stepped out into the open behind him and drew behind him. I notched an arrow and pulled my aim behind his back. I'm not sure why I chose that moment, but I had decided he needed to die. I wasn't going to follow his wanderings another day. Whether he really saw our village or not, I was not going to let him live to tell anything he had seen. Part of me wanted to believe I was showing mercy to a man who was slowly going to die anyway. The truth is that I hated him. He had done... Let me make that an extra paragraph. It's still related to the previous idea, but I think it has strength if it's separated out on its own. Alright, he had not done anything to me or my people beyond wasting my time, but that was equally my fault. Still, I did not want to live in the same world as him any longer. His existence was an insult to me for reasons I cannot really explain even now. It was that moment everything changed. The very world, let me make that the same sentence, same paragraph. The very world around him bent. It was like looking at him through water, but it was the air itself that distorted. He laughed, cackled, maybe screaming. His madness is a better description. He never turned to face me again, but he lifted his arms in the air and his skin glowed from the inside. I've tried to draw the shape of the lights from within him, but have never been able to capture their image. Maybe men are not meant to. He dropped to his knees in the midst of his laughing ecstasy. I know I did not spell that right. I believe it has a C in it. Yes, okay. Computer saves me from embarrassing myself. Alright, he dropped to his knees in the midst of his laughing ecstasy. The air through the clearing rippled like the surface of a pond disturbed by a rock. He himself looked like a shape under the water. The trees themselves split and distorted with the rippling air. I believe I may have even smelled the rich minerals of water trapped at the bottom of a dark cave. Maybe I smelled the place from which this creature came. The world folded, and a pulse of sound, almost like a wind, sort of like the pressure of water on your chest when you dive too deep, passed over and through me. I lowered my bow as my arms gave out on me and fired my arrow into the dirt at my feet. The man, if I dare to still call him that, vanished into the cursed air. The ripples disappeared, and the trees returned to their shapes. Every living thing went silent in an instant, and I stood alone and exposed, 3 days from home. In that moment, I realized I had been the fool, following a demon. Now I realized I should have taken the message from the wolf across the creek. This creature was death itself, and following him was inviting my end. I knew I was the one hunted, and I was far from home. I turned and ran after dark. Finally, I stopped and camped with no fire. I returned to the village alive to tell this story. Now I believe I was the one receiving a warning. So take my warning, because I do not know that a second chance will be granted by whatever species of spirit I saw that day. As you hunt, keep your eyes open. Do not duck your head as you drink. Do not be lured by strange visions. And if you see a demon like the one I followed all those seasons ago, do not dare to follow it. It may behave as if it does not know where it goes, but it is a demon wearing human skin. And next time, he may want to take you with him beyond this world. Alright, chapter 2. Okay, so we've been introduced to something. We don't know what it is, and we don't quite know where we are, so maybe this is terrible writing, because we should really have an idea of where we're going and what we're doing. I'm going to need to refer back to my notes, because I just kind of went from memory with that. Alright, next chapter will take us to a little bit of a different place, so let's see what we can do with this. Okay, this chapter is titled Pre-End 14, Hungarian Win, question mark 5. Maybe those chapter titles will make sense later, and maybe they will not. I guess some of it depends on how good of a writer I am or not. The greatest day of my life was the day my father found my husband lost and hurt in the forests south of our homes. South of our home. Okay. I am ZSOFIA KUS. I wrote a character name down, but it's from other languages, other people. Okay. All right. I am Zofia Kuz Green, and I still love him for all I am worth. When my father brought him home upon a skid when he was out hunting, my husband Trey was delirious and hurt. I helped drain the swelling around his knee while he was still semi-conscious. All right. His red coat was ruined, but we folded it and placed it by the side of the bed we placed him in. Alright, so establishing some details that indicate this unnamed character, well now he's named Trey, is the same one that we saw in the first chapter. We did not look through his clothing, although we could feel possessions in the pockets. One of them was a notebook that I have seen since, but he never allowed me to read, even after all the years of our marriage. I respect him as a man, as a person is expected to respect and fear God. So I never tried to see the notebook, no matter how curious I was. As he healed, he only spoke an odd dialect of German and a arcane variety of French. My father and mother knew enough to find common words for the beginning of, okay, I need to make this unarcane, for the beginning of a dialogue. Still, well, same paragraph. Still, we learned almost nothing about him or his origins. He stayed by the grace Let me put that at the beginning. Alright. By the grace of God, he stayed. I was old and beyond marrying age then, already 19 and still at home. Trey worked for my father and alright, I wrote something specific down here I need, and learned to speak modern Franco-Magyar. Alright. Just enough research to use a few things incorrectly, so we'll see how it goes. Alright. Trey worked for my father and learned to speak modern Franco-Magyar. Although he never lost his accent that I have not heard from any other traveler in the entire 5 years we have been married. Trey spoke of many strange things. He never identified his land of origin or the exact history of how he ended up close to death near my father's farm that day. Okay. Trey spoke of many strange things. He never identified his land of origin or the exact history of how he ended up close to death. How he ended up so close to death, let's say. Near my father's farm that day. He spoke of wars and crimes that needed to be reversed. He railed in the night when we were alone and he had drank more than usual. He shouted of tyranny and the need to overthrow governments that... I want to choose this carefully because I don't want to give away too much at this point of the story. He shouted of tyranny and the need to overthrow governments that did not serve the people. Things need to be set right, he whispered to me. It is never too late to change the world. I did not ever demand more detail than he volunteered. He was my husband. I respected him. I still love him. And I would not ask. Okay. Let's see where we are. Do I want to put down the conversation here or keep going? I was unable to provide him a child all those years, and it broke my heart. God bless Trey Green, for he never threatened to cast me aside, and he never complained I was childless. All the burden of my failure I carried myself, because he rescued me from being an old maid, and I wanted to be a blessing. Let me fix this word here. I should always spell "and" correctly, at least, even if I misspell everything else. And I wanted to be a blessing to him by being a mother of his many children. I knew something was wrong the night before everything changed. What troubles you, husband? I asked. He sat silent and stared into the fire as he tended to do many nights. He did not answer me. There were no whispers of tyranny or wars lost to the wrong side. I sat close to him and silent, because I respected and loved him. I still do. After long hours, I fell asleep where I sat. He was gone the next morning when I awoke. The fire had burned itself out. I searched the house for him and all the surrounding area. He did not take any clothes other than the ones on his back. His secret notebook and private possessions from the long abandoned red coat were gone too. That was my clue that he was gone, and not just for the day. My father would not have me back. He is well on in years and could probably use my help, but a 19-year-old maid was bad enough. It was 4 years, 5 years, a 24, nearly 25-year-old abandoned wife is a step too far. I live with my sister and her husband. I still love Trey and believe he will return. I do not say this in front of my sister's husband, for he despises Trey and thinks he is the most terrible of men. Me being in his house is a daily reminder of his hatred. I do say so in front of my sister, but she looks on me with pity, and I have lived long enough to know it is a short journey from pity to disgust. I have nowhere else to go, so I cannot afford to disgust my sister or her husband. I stay quiet, out of sight, and as useful as I can possibly make myself. I still believe my beloved Trey will return. He rescued me once, and I believe he will do so again. My best guess is that he was from the West, beyond the that he was from the West, beyond the Louisiana River. How embarrassing to misspell Louisiana. But there we go, Peter's got it. There might be empires over there that match the snippets of story I got from him over the years. Trey often talked of my people and spent any spare money we had on books about the old country. He spoke of turning points, moments in history that changed everything. Sometimes these moments were small and unnoticed by all of us, but a slight change could reorient everything. I know he loved me too. I know it. He never despised me for being childless. He never despised me for being childless. No matter how other women in the village might gossip otherwise. He let me read his expensive books and even taught me. He let me read his expensive books and even taught me the words I struggled to pronounce. I do not share this fact with many people, but I dare say not a husband, say not any, I dare to say not any other husband has ever showed that indulgence, say shared, has ever shared that indulgence with their wives. They gossip less now that I am starting to show my sister's husband is more angry at Trey now that I am going to have a child, our child, soon. Now the women gossip that he left because he did not want children. It can't be both ways, so they should stick to one theory or the other. I don't think he knew, because I didn't know until some time after he was gone. I hope I have Trey's son when he returns from winning wars that should not have been lost. I think I carry a girl now, and though there is much I don't know about my husband, I do believe he will love our daughter as much as he would a son. I wait for him, and I have faith he will return once everything is set right. All right, chapter 3. I'm over my limit for the day, but I want to do a couple hundred more words, just push it past 3,000 a little bit, give myself a little bit of a cushion, and then I don't have to write as much tomorrow. Alright, so I haven't really referred to my notes very much since writing them, so there may be a good bit of revision that needs to be done. Okay, chapter 3 will be titled Post End 156, Coal Shift 9, Bulk 21, Tier 18. All right. I know those titles are ridiculous. Did I split those up top, or did I just do them all in a bunch? I did them all in a bunch. Okay. So that'll be how we title that. Again, my goal is to make those make sense as the story goes on, but we'll see how it goes. I leaned close to his ear on the convalescing table. Alright. Hopefully I spelled this close enough to where it will convalescing table. I tended to whisper to the unidentified patients who came into my care. It was habit. Secrets are a way of life, and I try to protect others by keeping their secrets as long as I can. That is not easy in my line of work. Let me make that was. That was not easy in my line of work, but it was necessary insofar as it was possible. Sir, I am Aveline Miracle. I am your ward angel tonight. You are at the Prime Street Sanitarium in the Bay District. You know what, I'm going to get a little fancier here. Let's say the Far Bay District. Let me make that with 2 R's. So it references back to something that was mentioned in the first chapter, but has a little bit of a difference to it. So maybe that's a clue, maybe it's a distraction from the clues. In New Hampshire. New Hampshire. What is your name, sir? I glanced over my shoulder. Alright, again I got notes because I'm dealing with some different folks here. Okay. I glanced over my shoulder. The pair of constabularies. Okay. The pair of constabularies took a step closer. They were already watching this man when he was brought in by conveyance. Trying to choose some different words here since we're kind of dealing with a different place from where he was in the other two places. I glanced over my shoulder. The pair of constabularies took a step closer. They were already watching this man when he was brought in by conveyance. I'm not sure if my cutting them a look raised their suspicions higher, but I'm certain it didn't help. Trey, the man said in a grunt that might not have been a word. Trey, I thought at the time, and looked. Trey, I thought at the time, and looked at the do I want to say the word Trey again? Okay, Trey, I thought at the time, and looked at the metal counter next to his bed. There was nothing there. No medicines nor instruments had been laid out. He had no possessions. He had no possessions on him either. Maybe, no, I don't want to use maybe again. I want this narrator to have a different voice. And we had someone use maybe before. I imagined anything he possessed was stolen by whomever put him into this state. Sir, I don't have anything for you here. Do you desire water? He cleared his throat, and I heard the pair shuffle even closer behind me. I fought the temptation to look this time. No, the man said a little clearer and stronger. My name is Trey. Do you have identification? Do you have... Okay, hold on. Do you have identity permits? I may change that later. I want it to be something weird. Do you have identity permits? I whispered as low as I could. He chuckled. It could have been a cough. But then he said, at least you are speaking English. Sort of. All right, we were at 3,131. So I'm going to stop there for today and record my word count. This is a good example of why word counts throw me off. The fact that it's 3131 kind of messes with my brain. I'm going to think about that all day. So there's a temptation to just keep writing and change it to another number, but my brain is always looking for patterns in numbers. So that's one reason that I don't like to track word counts, but I'm playing along with NaNoWriMo, so it's something I'm going to participate in for now. So we'll begin from 3131 tomorrow on Rise Again, and I think it's going okay. There's still a bit of mystery around the story, but then I want to go ahead and put in my word counts for NaNoWriMo. I have a few buddies on this site that have given me permission to look at their pages and kind of see where they are. Some authors that I like and respect very much, so I'm probably going to look at a couple of them today and talk about their books a little bit. But let me put in my word count for today. I'm going to do total words. Okay. So 3131. Update progress. What am I doing? Showing how happy I am? Is that okay? I don't know. This is all new to me. Alright, so I'm at 3131. I got my update your progress badge. I got my first day update badge, and I've passed the 1667 words that would make 50,000 words in 30 days. I'm trying to finish in 20 days, so I'm doing 2,500 minimums, and I went over today, so that's good. Sure, got some other badges there. So I want to kind of take a look at what some of my other author friends have done. So let me look at my buddies list, and first I'll look and see what Jessica McHugh did. Alright, let me bring you guys back in. Jessica McHugh has done this a bunch of times. She's a great writer. Her current project, Under Wraps and the Tale of Jet and Wild. Now, I don't know if Under Wraps is actually the title or if it's something. She means that the title's Under Wraps. But she hit 2,000 words today. I checked earlier. I don't know how many words she had done earlier, so maybe she's writing more than once today. But 2,000 words is great. She is well ahead of schedule and has hit her updated more than once today. Okay, so that's something she's accomplished. Here in her bio, it talks about the story Green Kangaroos, which is great. She has a young adult series called the Darla Decker Diaries, which I love, and a Blackout Poetry collection. I couldn't remember the title of it, but A Complex Accident of Life. Let's take a look at her page here. She's been in a lot of anthologies. The Train Derails in Boston. I don't know if we can see that one at the edge of the picture here. I'll go ahead and click on it, and then we can just look at it. Train Derails in Boston. Love this book. It is great, very intense, and of course she's just done a great job with it. A Complex Accident of Life. I'll take a look at that one. Love this book as well. She does blackout poetry, and so takes pages and creates them. But I've seen most of her work online with that, and it's just the visual of them are beautiful, and they just look great as well. Green Kangaroos is right here. That's a great book. It's sort of intense, like cyberpunk stuff. Rabbits in the Garden is a wonderful book. Let's see what else we got here. Here are the Darla Decker books. It's for younger readers, and it dives deep into some issues that kids face, but it's a lot of fun too. So it's really great. I got one of those from her from a convention a long time ago. The Maiden Voyage and Other Departures. That's a wonderful book where she's kind of in an alternate world. It's a little bit steampunk, but she's sort of created her own genre there as well. This is an older one, but the Nightly Owl, Fatal Raven is a wonderful book as well. So definitely a lot there that's worth checking out. Jessica McHugh. Now back to Nano. Let me see if I can look at one of my other author friends. Armand Rosamilia has given me permission. I got permission from all these people before I looked at their pages, so I'm not like just invading their privacy. Okay, so we'll take a look at Armand. He has a lot going on. The book he's working on is The Devil's School. At first, he was just an unnamed horror book, so I didn't know what was going on. He's at 4,092, so he's updated more than once today. He was at 3,000 something earlier, so I was trying to kind of get close to him, but he's already blasting away, so I'm probably not going to catch up to him this session of NaNoWriMo. He has a lot of great work out as well. The Dirty Deeds series is a great crime fiction series. Chelsea Avenue is wonderful, and so are the sequels. United States of Apocalypse that he co-wrote with Mark Tufo. They're working on the sequel to that, so I'm very excited that they have finally gotten back to that project. Green River Blend is a wonderful horror book about coffee. Also, Keyport Cthulhu that he co-wrote with Chuck Buda is good. The Beast is a wonderful monster story. The Sea Was Angry is another great one. The Enemy Held Near is a book I co-wrote with him. That's a haunted house story. Let's see. What else do we have here? Again, the Green River Blends and the Dirty Deeds series. We got the Dying Days series, which is really good. The Hidden Truth is a transgressive crime fiction novel that we wrote together, and a bunch of other great stuff. Here's the Dying Days Family Ties is a young adult novel set within his more intense Dying Days series. Make Believe is not out yet, I don't believe, but is up for pre-order, and these are his short stories. I actually follow him on Patreon, so I get to see a good number of his short stories, but I'm going to definitely pick that up as well as we go forward. All right, so I'm going to look at a couple other folks today, and then I got permission from some people to look at some of their stuff tomorrow. Let's check out my buddy Tim Meyer. So I'm going to go see how he did today on air. I'm going to check everybody once I'm done here, but see how he did on air. So we'll click him. All right, he is really blowing it away. My friends are really pushing themselves today. He has the Pteranodon Canyon, so it's a monster story. It looks like a dinosaur type story. He is at 5,434 words, and I think he's updated more than once. Yes, so I looked at their stuff before I started, and so they are moving right along. He is looking to tear it up. Everybody's going to be writing faster than me. He's already passed his 5,000 mark, so that is really cool. Let's take a look at some of the stuff he's written. I believe I have him up as well. Okay, here we go. The Switch House is a wonderful book. This is a new cover. So it's kind of like a couple is in sort of a reality show where they switch homes. then they come home and everything seems the same, but something's different. It bothers them. It's great existential horror there, real terror even. Kill Hill Carnage is a great book. It's sort of about this. It harkens back to some kind of the '80s slasher films, and sort of like one of those Jason type monsters that would be around, but it's unique in the way it's approached, and it's a great homage to those films. But the book elevates it into something different. Now, the story, the Pteranodon Canyon, probably is similar to some of these books that he's done for Severed Press, I believe. Primal Terra is where I believe I've read it. I believe it was a jewel thief who goes into an apartment and or is chased into an apartment and then ends up going through a portal that takes him to a primeval sort of dinosaur world. Really well done. Shark Water Beach I've not read yet, but another one of those monster stories. Sunfall I have not read. I just saw this today that it looks like he co-wrote with a few different people. So maybe that's an anthology or maybe it's a series, I'm not sure. Limbs is a very interesting sort of a unnerving love story horror kind of thing, but it's interesting. I don't want to give anything away by telling you too much about it. The House of Mirrors is really good. It's a photographer that ends up in a home that kind of has a history to it, and then he starts seeing different things from what he's able to. Lords of the Deep here is another monster story that he co-wrote with Patrick Lacey. So any monster story that Tim Meyer is creating is really, really good. So he is a consistently great author. So I have updated my NaNoWriMo, and I am clearly well behind my friends who are really tearing it up. I think maybe they're trying to get a good head start going. I'm ahead of my own schedule, but I'm not looking to finish earlier than I have planned. So I want to get it done by the 20th. But they've done some great work here, and I'm looking forward to staying ahead as I go along. So I've gotten a good day on, well past my goal, and not nearly as good as some of my challengers who are definitely pushing it to get a lot of words done. So they're going to blow away their NaNoWriMo goals, and I'm very, very proud of them.